right?
Okay, good.
It always happens when you say
So
that.
you want
Short
to
agenda.
go to Doug Shuffle? You want to try paint?
Tell me when.
Yeah, the live stream is still,
Okay.
I think we're close.
Not the last one, but the one before that. Yeah,
He and,
very thorough.
he and Debbie in a race for prolonging the
Yeah.
paint.
Lovely, thank you.
Dennis, how are you?
Okay, I've been advised that our live stream is in shape here, and it being 10:10, I'm calling to order the County Development Committee of Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. If I could please have the clerk call the roll.
Moniki? Here. Ferrero?
Ferrero here.
Hanson? Leonard? Surges?
Surges here.
Weber?
Here.
Fries? Kenyon? Martin?
The second item on the agenda would be approval of minutes. We're going to defer that August 18th minute approval until the next meeting. Next item on the agenda is monthly financials. I see no one here from the finance department. Are they online with the report, or should we accept the report as filed? Hearing no response, please review the report on file. Public comment. I have two matters showing. I have and I think both relate to petition 4547. So let's defer those comments. Does anyone have a comment online or otherwise related to non-agenda items or anything other than the ETO Chicago LLC petition? Okay, hearing none, then we'll defer those until that petition is heard. The next matter would be the building and zoning report.
Good morning. A couple of good news things to report for building and zoning this morning. One is this past week, we started holding our administrative adjudication hearings once again via Zoom. So we had a pretty good sized caseload. And appreciate the cooperation from IT, the other departments, our hearing officer, and we had participants in person and via Zoom, and we're able to make good progress on some of our complaint and violation cases. Other than that, building team is working with IT and some other departments on some upgrade changes to our permitting system that will improve our customer experience and our efficiencies. And that's about it, unless there's any other questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Van Kerkhoff?
Surges here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Surges.
Mark, what have we heard from the milk pail? Anything recently?
I have not heard anything recently.
Okay. I do notice that the tent that we felt was in the wrong area has been taken down. I don't know that it was reinstalled at all. And if you drive out past the property at all, if you're looking at it to the right where all the old tents used to be, is seemingly in shambles with just piles of debris and stuff like that. I'm wondering if we might be able to encourage them somehow to just expedite cleaning that up a little bit. Just from a drive-by curb appeal perspective.
Yes, we can certainly do that.
Thanks, Mark. We appreciate everything you're doing on this.
Sure, you bet.
Anything else for Mr. Van Kerkhoff? Hearing nothing, if we could move to the first zoning petition, which would be 4547.
Okay, go to that one for now. My apologies. We have a issue with the PowerPoints for the zoning petition. So maybe if you want to move on the agenda while I try to work on getting that clarified.
Okay. Then the next petition, second petition, would be petition 4557 in Blackberry Township.
I have to run up and retrieve both PowerPoints. So maybe if you want to move on to subdivision and then loop back around to zoning. My apologies for that.
Oh, okay. Then subdivision.
We don't have anything under subdivision, environmental resources, or water resources this month.
Thank you. Did you said nothing under environmental resources either?
Correct.
Water resources, nothing? Mr. Berger, Office of Community Reinvestment. We have a resolution you're proposing?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Martin and members of the Development Committee. We were recently notified of an award of $145,000 in homeless prevention funds from the Illinois Department of Human Services. And before you today, we have a resolution that establishes a special revenue fund for the purpose of tracking and managing those dollars. We also included in the resolution an amendment to the current fiscal year budget to accommodate the expenses and revenues that we expect to receive during this fiscal year. Just in short, the funds will help us assist homeowners in 4 zip codes, 2 zip codes in Elgin, 60120 and 60123, and 2 zip codes in Aurora, 60505 and 60506. These 4 zip codes were deemed especially hard hit by the COVID-19 epidemic and the economic fallout from that epidemic. We are enabled to assist households with up to 6 months of rent and utility assistance with these dollars. And this is from the Coronavirus Relief Fund allocation received by the state of Illinois. And so we are using these funds between now and the end of December to assist those households. We would recommend that you approve this and send it on to the executive committee.
Thank you very much. May we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Ms. Barrero moves, Mr. Fries seconds. Do we have comments or questions? It's good to see some of this money being spread.
Yes, it's very
Mr.
important.
Hanson.
Good morning, and thank you. Scott, do you envision this money being utilized in a new independent program or to seed existing programs that are out there? Or how would you personally recommend this money be spread to those 4 zip codes?
This is a new initiative for us, but you'll notice that we're recommending the special revenue fund be titled Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing, because we do expect additional funding to be available through the state for the purpose of assisting households with their rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. In the immediate future, we're going to reach out to both Aurora and Elgin, make them aware of this. Obviously, $145,000 does not go very far. So this is hopefully just the beginning of the level of assistance that we can provide households.
Mike Kennan, do you have any idea how many
Kenyon.
households this will affect in Elgin? Because like you say, it's not a lot of money, but it's a start.
Right now, we're estimating about 25 households in total, and that would be in both communities. We'll assist households on a first come, first qualified, first served basis. So we have not done any outreach yet, but we'll see where the inquiries come from, and as soon as they're qualified, we'll provide assistance.
Is there any other?
Scott, this is Teresa.
I'm sorry.
Good
who's
morning.
this?
Teresa.
Oh, Teresa,
Hi.
you have the floor.
I have a question. Okay, so how are you going to do this outreach for these areas, since they're kind of both at the opposite ends of the county?
So what we plan to do is notify both the cities of Elgin and Aurora, as well as the two HUD certified housing counseling agencies, one of which is the Neighbor Project in downtown Aurora, and the other of which is Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Northern Illinois in Elgin. Those agencies work directly with households affected by the COVID-19 epidemic, and we'll work through them to identify households that are eligible for assistance. And we'll provide that assistance as soon as those households apply and are deemed eligible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Any other
welcome.
comments? Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Winnicki,
Yes.
Ferrero,
Ferrero, yes.
Hanson, Leonard,
Yes.
Surges,
Sturgis, yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Fries,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes,
Martin.
Yes. Motion carries. I've been advised that we're now prepared to discuss petition 4547. Mr. Van Kerkhoff?
Good morning. We'll get the PowerPoint up. It is in your packet. We appreciate IT's bringing the PowerPoint up. It's a little bit better presentation for the committee. The first one is an item that's been tabled for several months. The ETO Chicago LLC at 6 and 518 Route 25 in St. Charles Township. It's a rezoning from an existing B1 district business and F farming in the existing parcels to B3 business district with a special use for storage and equipment of vehicles. And this is an existing building that for years was a furniture store. He may have been kind of a landmark on Route 25 for years, as it had a giant gentleman sitting in a rocking chair before the business went out, operating under the B1 zoning. The new owners want to rehabilitate the building, as well as one of the businesses is for their mosquito abatement business, which they have pickup trucks and equipment that would be parked there overnight. Oh, thank you. So here it is located outlined in red. It's an area that's in the 2040 plan is for employment and commercial opportunities. And it's surrounded by urban neighborhood uses, existing single family homes to the west and countryside estate residential across the street. Here it is on the zoning map. You can see the adjacent residential development is a PUD and the existing B1 and B3 and B4 properties across the street. Here it is on the aerial. Here's more of a close-up. Give you an idea of its proximity to the neighborhood to the west, as well as the other commercial uses across the street. And this is Illinois Route 25. A little bit more of a close-up. So the existing building you can see is here. There's currently a couple of access points and parking. This is the area that's currently zoned B1. This is the area that's zoned F district farming that they would include in the petition for the B3 with the special use. Here's the proposed site plan. You can see again the building. They would continue to use the two access points. They would expand the parking to the south as well as expand parking to the north. This would both accommodate their business and eventually they want to rehabilitate the building for multiple tenants. Due to, after the zoning hearing with some additional comments from neighbors and public input, they refined that and gave us a more detailed plan. There's also a representative from the Homeowners Association to address you this morning as well. So there are some staff recommended stipulations, a lot to do with drainage. I'm going to turn it over in a minute to Jody Walnick to address the work on that. And some from transportation, from KDOT for dedicating right-of-way, providing traffic study, and revising the site plan to show turning radius for truck access to the loading bay. And that's for your consideration this morning, but first I'll turn it over to Jody Walnick on the water resources.
Thank you. I'm going to go back a couple slides here. Oops. Okay, this is a great slide. We've been working very closely with the property owner's engineer to try and address some of the drainage issues that were occurring on this property. Some of them are historic and some could potentially obviously be exacerbated by the increase in impervious area. This impervious area is approximately 14,000 square feet, which is below our stormwater detention threshold. But as part of the petition, we're requiring that the owner install detention on this property due to the downstream issues. So the detention area would be located in this general vicinity. We have approximate sizing, but we do only have concept engineering at this point, but the petitioner has agreed to that. Currently, there's a wetland area in this location, and it kind of bleeds out into this property located to the west. As part of the improvements, the detention area would direct this flow directly to Courier Avenue in the culvert underneath Courier Avenue to prevent that long-term bleeding of water out onto the side yard of the adjacent property. In addition, we received some comments regarding the drainage to the north of Courier Avenue and some issues that were occurring down there, specifically some flooding issues. The detention will reduce the flood occurrences north of Courier Avenue by reducing the release rate from this property, as well as some planned regrading of the ditch line behind the homes. That is obviously subject to the approval of the property owners, but that would be part of the conditions on this zoning approval, is that they would include the detention, the redirection of the flow out to Courier Avenue, as well as the regrading of the ditches with the permission of the property owners.
Thank you. Does that conclude the presentation?
Yes, it does. Staff recommended findings of fact that the proposed rezoning would provide for the continued use of the existing business property, and encourage reinvestment and improvements to the building and the site, which you've just heard are fairly extensive.
Thank you. Let's have a motion to move forward, and then I'll let the speakers address the committee. Mr. Kenyon moves, Mr. Weber seconds. I have two speakers evidence today, one being Nelson Sanderson. Mr. Sanderson, are you speaking, or do you want to address issues should they arise?
More to address issues to arise at. Both my engineer, John Spinader, and my architect, Kristen Madden, also online with us today.
Okay, thank you. We'll defer then to the second speaker, which is the representative from the Owners Association.
Oh, that building was built cheap.
If you'd please give your name and address and respect the fact that our protocols require 3-minute limitations on
Sure.
speaking.
My name is Pam Turriff. I live in Saddle Ridge at 6N308E Whitmore Circle. I am the president of the Homeowners Association. I just wanted you to know that we have met with the owners of ETO probably about a month ago now, and kind of walked through their property and ours to see how this would impact the neighborhood. We have a homeowner who butts right up to their property. We understand that. We know they were there first. But they do want to expand the southern end of their property that would really butt up to the fence of our homeowner. We did talk them into maybe not coming up so close to us, so they agreed to give us like a 10-foot or more easement between their fence and parking lot and ours. One of our concerns is lighting. As you know, parking lots have a lot of overhead lights We haven't discussed that with them, but I do want to bring that up. I should say we did discuss it with them, but not to any extent. I asked them if they would write up a proposal for us because of course, I'm just the president, I'm not the board, and I do need to take this to a board meeting, and I would like our attorneys to look at it as well. They have provided me with that agreement this morning, and everything that we've discussed is on there. Something new has come up. Well, let me just run over this really quickly. So they talked about moving their fence line back a little bit, which is very neighborly and we appreciate. We also talked, which isn't in here, but we've always been mowing that strip of lawn that's actually theirs. And I told them we'd just continue to do that. So we're both trying to be neighborly. They talked about the privacy fence. They talked about installing, they say here, 15 trees along the southern fence line and the western. They're going to be taking out a lot of foliage here, a lot of huge trees, a lot of, scrub kind of brush, which right now is keeping us from having to look at that property, and that's all going to be gone on the southern edge. So that's a concern of ours. We will talk to them more about the lighting. And then another thing that's come up, and then I'll leave, but is the water. They are saying that they are on a well right now, and that what they are needing to do is come onto our property to connect to the municipal water system, water and sewer. So I'm really not sure how that's going to impact us, but that would be on the western part of actually where it's our land. So we're going to need to talk about how that will impact us. But other than that, I'm just here to let you know that yes, we have had discussion with them. Our board meets in October. We're hoping to have some kind of a more formal agreement at that time. But I do want you to know that they have reached out and they're trying to, be neighborly and understand that this will impact our neighborhood. How about that for timing?
You missed it by 2 seconds.
Oh, darn. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or Ms. Winicki?
Just listening to our speaker, no, that's all right. She did mention that they're on well water, and so they're probably on a septic as well. Have we thought about adding a recommendation that they do hook up to the city of St. Charles for sewer and water? I think that would be the better way to go, especially if there are serious drainage and water issues in that area.
I would request that you have the petitioner update you in terms of their findings, working with the health department and with, in this case, it would be Forward, has the public infrastructure that services this area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mark.
Are you asking that to be done now?
That I would suggest that it would be appropriate time for the petitioner and their team to address that question.
Okay, Mr. Sanderson?
We're currently actually in that process of identifying who is the water supplier and the septic system. Due to the fire suppression system that we need to install in our building, they are highly recommending that we go with something with volume. Otherwise, we have to do storage tanks. So that is our intent, is to connect to both the municipal water and sewer system. We were requesting easement to get to those systems within the HOA to the west of us. So that is our intent.
Thank you. Mr. Fraz?
I really appreciate the dialogue between the neighbors and the petitioner. They're actually requesting a lower density, if I understand it correct, going from B1 to B3. Would that be correct?
It is an intensification because the B3 has a broader list of uses, and the special use for the outdoor parking of their mosquito abatement trucks allows for more than just customer parking.
Okay, so it's going from a retail type of environment to an office type. I was a little concerned because I didn't know what kind of business it was when it's an outdoor storage of trucks and equipment, but this looks like a really nice site plan. There's stormwater improvements being taken care of and problems being solved there. And I do see that there are trees proposed around the parking lot, which would hopefully replace the ones that the speaker was concerned of. So we have a redevelopment of a shuttered building. So I think this is all pretty good stuff. I would ask the petitioner, Mr. Sanderson, I believe it is. The speaker today asked about lighting. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to commit at this point to, fully shrouded lighting or meeting the dark skies standards.
Actually, we did discuss that with our ad hoc meeting. We talked about low profile lighting, lower lighting. We talked about, because we want to make observations of our parking lot, night sensitive observation cameras. So we don't need the light that much. So we're happy to keep the higher lighting down to the ground, more of accent lighting for people to walk around parking lots. So we are definitely going down that path.
Okay. No, I think this is a good plan, and I think they worked with the neighbors, and the issues that were brought up, I think will all be dealt with. So I support it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Cayos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that they'll be storing pesticides on site because it is that type of a business. And they're currently in that building now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my question is just more along the lines of that they're responsible in storage and potential problems with pesticides or disposal, that sort of thing.
Mr. Sanderson, do you want to address that?
I certainly can. We've been in business for 9 years now. We have had no incidences with chemical issues. Our amount of storage of chemical we have is basically a limited, 3 basic chemicals we use for mosquito abatement. One is liquid, the other ones are dry. So they're granular forms. The amount we store is only 3 weeks worth approximately at a time. So our minimum storage area, it's all in single 3/4 jugs. The potential for any type of chemical spill is next to impossible. We have followed the fire marshal's recommendations on location. We do store it separately from the rest of the building, and it is all within the requirements of storage set up by the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Kerkhoff,
Yeah, as staff has not seen the list and some of the additional accommodations to the HOA at this point, staff would suggest for consistency of enforcement and expectations from neighboring property owners that the petitioner submit those as agreed upon stipulations that get incorporated into the special use. So that could take 2 pathways if the committee, decided to request that. One would be tabling this for an additional 30 days while that gets ironed out with the HOA. So we have before the committee all the actual stipulations and a revised site plan reflecting those. The other would be that they try to get that done with the HOA prior to the county board meeting. And Mr. Chairman, you may have to read those into the record at that time. But that would be staff's recommendation, so that if there's a non-performance on one of those HOA agreed upon items, that there's a consistent way to evaluate that against the petition that's been submitted.
What would be staff's recommendation as to those 2 possible routes?
I think tabling for 30 days so that we come back to you with the complete agreed upon stipulations and a revised site plan, just so that it's a clear part of the record. But I don't know it's been tabled several times, so I don't know if the petitioner has a comment on that or not.
Mr. Sanderson, do you have any comment on the tabling of 30 days?
I do not have a problem with the tabling of 30 days. This has gone on for a long time of the tabling process. Would the agreement that we propose to the HOA be acceptable for that? And the question is, do you want that in some type of legal documentation, or is it just the proposal sufficient for what we're going to do and have that submitted into the project plan?
I think the issue raised by Mr. Van Kerkhoff was that until we have it in some manner in writing, we're it's verbal and we're not certain what in fact we're agreeing to.
Well,
Uh,
the problem would be back to the HOA themselves, because their board meeting, I don't know what date that would be in October. So it's totally based upon their board meeting and then their approval of that. So that's going to push it out past the October date and into November.
Well, Barb?
Would the HOA consider possibly a special meeting, moving up their meeting so that this could be approved in October, or at least at the development committee?
Well, and I'd like, in that same vein, I'd like to volunteer that pretty soon we're going to enter into the season when you can't lay asphalt and we've got issues on construction. So particularly because the developer has been as cooperative as it has, I would ask if the homeowners association could blink on meeting times and help us move this forward.
Yeah, can I just say that I would like the lighting issue, as you discussed with the owner, I would like that added to this document that they sent us. And then I will do everything in my power to get the board together. I do want our attorneys to look it over. I'm not going to sign anything into, that's legal without that. And I will try to expedite that. So with the addition of the low lighting.
Well, if we in fact pass this today, okay, with the condition that you arrive at your consensus before the board meeting, that would move this forward. I'm a little bit concerned about delaying it a month.
I'm not trying to delay this.
No,
I've been at like 3 board meetings to try to get this going, believe it or not.
No, I'm trying to keep it moving and
Yeah.
and know that we've addressed issues, but I am concerned about the construction season and
I
the ability that
agree.
asphalt plants close and then we're all stuck. So my thought to the committee would be that if we could move this ahead today, anticipating that we would have some possible modification to the conditions at the next at the October board meeting, then we all have marching orders to get this done, and you can go back to your group and say our feet are to the fire, and we can keep this moving.
I think that's the intent of both
Okay, well, yeah,
parties.
and I want to compliment both sides on the cooperative effort that's been done in moving this forward, and in particular the developer, in the sense that we have a lot of historic issues here that the developers volunteered to assist with, that is going to help not only the developer, but help everybody in the neighborhood. So, Ms. Winnicki?
I just want to alert the homeowner that our board meeting will be meeting Tuesday, October 13th. So that'll be the full commission is what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the
Approval.
regular monthly meeting of
Right.
the
Yeah.
board.
So that would be October 13th, Tuesday.
I will see what I can do. I can get in touch with Mark and
Mr. Van Kerkhoff?
Yeah, so what staff would suggest is that the petitioner provide us with a letter stating the additional agreed upon conditions that they're requesting with their zoning, and that would include the items that they provided to the homeowners association, as well as the lighting. And then they would also provide us with a revised, updated site plan along with that list. And then those agreed upon stipulations and revised site plan would become part of their petition. We would post that on the website, and then it could move forward
Thank you.
to
I
the
mean,
full county board meeting.
My perception, as we hear the back and forth here today, is that in fact, all the issues have been resolved. It's just that we've not seen anything in writing that both sides can look at. So your suggestion, Mark, I think is very good. Let's have a letter that confirms that understanding, so we have something in writing that you can have and we can have for that.
And as I say, I got that just this morning at 9:45.
No, I understand that. I'm not casting any
so
fault or anything else.
I-
I'm frankly, this is one of the most pleasant negotiations we've had. All I want to do is just support it. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we have an executive meeting, I believe, on October 5th. So if the homeowners and the petitioner could get something in writing together by October 5th, we could move it forward from the executive committee meeting to the county board meeting. Would
Except
that
that-
be possible?
Actually, it's when the first executive is October 7th.
October
Wednesday.
7th,
Uh-huh.
Well, but zoning issues don't show up at the executive committee. Typically, the petitions,
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. So I think if we have something in a revised, the list of additional stipulations, and revised site plan that we can post, we can send out to the committee via email, and Mr. Martin can read that as part of the record for the full county board vote. That would establish these conditions as part of the special use
okay.
and make for more consistent expectations and enforcement in the future.
Do
I will
see?
try.
All right, sounds like everybody's happy. So we have a motion before us, and it's been seconded. Are there any other comments or suggestions? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Winnicki,
Yes.
Ferrero,
Ferrero, yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Motion carries. We will look forward to the written communication. The second and last matter before us is petition 4557 in Blackberry Township.
Good morning. The last petition this morning is 4557. This is requesting special use in the F Farming District for a private communication tower. This is its location in the 2040 plan. It is in a kind of in a green belt area. You can see the Forest Preserve holdings. This area is earmarked for future open space because of the creek that runs by. You see North Aurora and county's plan for resource management area. And this is kind of right on that edge. And then to the west, agriculture. Here you see it on the zoning map. Again, you can see Village of North Aurora, everything predominantly in farming, one F1 and an E1 close by. Here it is on the map. You can see this is predominantly open space and farmed area. This is the area that would be leased by the petitioner from the owners for the construction of the tower site. You can see it's not close to any residences. These are the closest residences in CV Road. And there's a close-up there again. This is the legal, again, describing the area for the tower construction.
Sorry, guys.
So staff recommendation, Kane County Division of Transportation is requesting a 30-foot half right-of-way. Water Resources has already issued a stormwater permit for the areas and would require stormwater management. Again, this is a special use which is required for commercial towers. Staff recommend finding of fact that allow, they're basically a series of 3 towers for this type of broadcast to be constructed on the property. Zoning Board of Appeals held their public hearing and they approved with the following stipulations for the staff recommended stipulations that the petitioner shall coordinate with the Kane County Forest Preserve District to ensure that all endangered species regulations from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service be reviewed and followed as a condition of the petition, and that they will also coordinate with the Forest Preserve to do an on-site inspection to ensure that the bird diverters are installed per their construction plan when appropriate. And those conditions arrive mostly out of questions regarding the relationship of the towers to flight patterns and Forest Preserve holdings in the area. We've already been in contact with Monica Myers and her team on reviewing those conditions. And the petitioner has been cooperative in wanting to work with the Forest Preserve and the county on ensuring those items for flight paths and provisions on the tower. I don't know if the petitioner is on the, or their representative is online for any comments or not, but that concludes the staff's presentation.
Thank you. Do we have the petitioner online for comments? Okay, hearing no response. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Fraz moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Do we have comments or questions? Mr. Fraz.
Mark, I'm just wondering, I don't see in the packet the height of the towers and the type of construction.
Sure. So it's 3 towers, 2 of which I believe are 180 feet tall, and then a shorter tower. It's very similar to a site that's been constructed on Beath Road, west of Route 47.
And then since it's in the middle of a field, when we do our notification, was it just the seller that got notified, or were there other neighbors notified?
No, it was the adjacent and property owners within 150 feet.
I'm just wondering, like, there's a couple of residences on CV Road, if they would have been, because I didn't get any calls on this, and I would have expected to, so I just want to make sure everybody affected has been notified.
Yeah, everyone's been notified, and to answer your question, it wasn't just proximity to the leased area, it was in proximity to the property. So every property that was adjacent, as well as within the 250 feet. So the one of the owners actually lives in this residence, and the other right across the street of the property.
Okay, I have no objection.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard?
You know, I was going to ask the same question about the tower height, so.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? Ms. Winnicki?
Just a quick question. What's URSANAV? What's the acronym for? Do we know? I'm just terrible.
URSANAV, I do not know what the acronym stands for.
Okay.
But they are the, Mary Coffey and Joe Reckinger are the owners of the property, and URSANAV and Parabel Broadcasting are the petitioner for leasing and constructing the towers.
Okay.
Mr. Weber?
Sturgis here.
Go ahead, Cliff.
No, Barb, if you give me a minute, I can come up with something for that.
Sounds good, Cliff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Weber?
Thank you, Chairman. I was curious as to what the signal is getting broadcasted. What is it just radio waves? Is it 5G? What are they trying to do with it?
So it's actually an older technology that's come back. In their case, they are Parabel Broadcasting would be broadcasting religious programming into countries that were otherwise wouldn't receive that type of broadcast. We've also had the other site that was constructed in Kane County is actually using the same technology for sending data. And we've had a few other inquiries about using this type of older technology for sending data. So it's kind of has a resurgence. My understanding is they're going to use it for broadcasting purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Onicky? Yes.
Barrero,
Barrero, yes.
Hanson? Yes. Leonard?
Yes.
Sturgis?
Sturgis, yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Fraz?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes the zoning petitions and brings us to item 11, Settlers Hill, and a resolution that Ms. Wolnick has.
Thank you. During the preparation of the budget at the end of 2019, we had anticipated that the cross-country course construction would be complete and that all payouts would be done with the exception of retainage to the contractor Curran as well as the engineer Weaver. Due to some discussion regarding the quantities of fill that was brought in, as well as the engineering contract that we brought through a resolution last month, we were not able to have those payouts complete. So, and we're doing a hindsight budget for the Enterprise Surcharge Fund 651. This reflects the payouts that occurred within FY 2020 and establishes that budget for the completion of the cross-country course. We've also submitted an FY 2021 budget that would pay out the remaining retainage as well as the storage facility for the running folks in 2021. So I'd ask for approval of this resolution to establish the budget.
Mr. Leonard moves, Mr. Fry seconds. Do we have any comments or questions? This is basically just a housekeeping to reflect money that we've already paid, so. Hearing nothing, in response to that question, would the clerk please call the roll?
Barrero,
Ferrero, yes.
Hanson? Yes. Leonard,
Yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes, motion carries. Is there any new business anyone would like to bring before the committee? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to replace reports on file? Mr. Leonard moves, Mr. Kenyon, that would be. Seconds. May we have the clerk please call the roll?
Oniki,
Yes.
Barrero,
Yes.
Hanson? Yes. Leonard,
Yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Fraz, Kenyon, Martin.
Yes. Motion carries. The reports are on file. We have no need for executive session, which then makes it appropriate for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kenyon moves. Mr. Leonard seconds. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So much for
Motion.
record time.
Motion.
I told you, never can bet on that.